Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well and doing safe from wherever you're joining in for this live stream. I am super excited to be here hosting this particular edition of the Storyblok Community Chats. I've been waiting for this since quite a long time, I would say, and some of you who are already aware knows this thing. But yeah, we are here today, and a couple of things that we are gonna talk about, and which is something which makes me, in a way, super curious because this is the topic very close to my heart. But before I actually jump onto that, I would love to hear from you all. So let me know where you all are joining in from. Just say hi in the chat. I already see Toki joining in. I see Sahitya joining in, and a couple of more folks as well. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. I am super excited to see how we're gonna cater this particular discussion in this one. Uh, as you already know, the topic is inclusive communities. Now, we all have been part of communities in some or the other way, but have we been part of inclusive communities? That is the question. Or have we tried to make communities inclusive around ourselves? And that is something we're going to talk about today in this particular live stream. We're going to focus on what is the importance of actually fostering the inclusivity in any community out there, and in a way, how do we embrace the diversity and how also at the same time promote equality. There are a lot of other things, a lot of topics, a lot of buzzwords, but yeah, how to do the same, where to do the same, what are the procedure, the shared struggles, how to overcome them, and then there are like a lot of other things. So don't worry, I'm not gonna talk about it like from 0 to 100. We have a very special guest, Carla Gaggini, who is also head of content events and community at Container Solutions. So I would love to invite her to the stage. And here we have her. Drum rolls. Hi Carla, how are you?
Hello. I'm great, thank you, and it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. Uh, when I was kind of having this brainstorming on what topics we're gonna go with the community chats, I, just stumbled upon this particular thing, which is inclusive communities. And I remember we were having these discussions at DevilCon Yokohama, and you had some great insights on the same. So I couldn't find a better speaker to invite for this particular live stream than you. So thank you so much for coming over and joining us for this one.
Thank you so much. It is definitely something I really care about. So every opportunity to discuss and to talk about this, I'm always ready to jump on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I also see a couple of them are already there in the chat saying hi. Thank you so much, everyone. They are saying hello, hello, hi, yes.
Hello, everybody.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, but before we jump on to the actual thing about this live stream, Carla, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's always something a bit hard for me to introduce myself, but I'll do my best. My name is Carla Gaggini, and at the moment, I'm the head of content community and events at Content Solutions. And in general, this is kind of the summary of the things I'm passionate about. I love connecting with the community. I love creating opportunity to learn together. So I've been working in the tech ecosystem for a while now, like 7 years. It's been some time, and I've tried my best to create this safe environment and to give the chance to everybody to speak up, to have a stage with events first, and then with content. I'm also a CNCF ambassador, so I do try to share the cloud native word around as much as possible. And I'm also an Open UK ambassador, which is an organization that promotes the adoption of open source across the UK, but also worldwide. So in a nutshell, these are the things that I care about, and also Japan, because that's where we met. I'm very passionate about that. Anything related to Japan makes me happy and excited.
Some of the great roles you have been attached with and the contributions that you have brought with you is something I really value. and we're definitely gonna learn a lot from that today in this live stream. Also, a quick thing on Japan. It has been one of my best trips, I would say, while I was traveling away from India. And I still remember the last day conversation we have that I was planning to go to Hakone, and because you were not able to go, then you were feeling sad about it. But then we somehow managed to, you know, end that conversation in a good note. That okay, next time.
Yeah. Oh my God,
I think I've
iconic.
already been there, though. You mentioned.
Yeah, I've been there. Well, now 6 times. So I'm honestly obsessed with that. Every chance I have to go to Japan, I take it. So I'm looking
Yeah,
for the next one now. Let's see what happens.
totally. The bucket list which I have now with Japan is Kyoto and Osaka, which I missed on my last trip. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyways, we'll have a separate live stream just for the travel talks. But jumping on to the topic of today, which is inclusive communities. Now, we all have had our own definitions with this particular word inclusive, right? And especially when we attach this thing with the community, it can have multiple things to understand for. Uh, but at this point, I would love to know from you, what do you mean by community? Or just let's understand the definition of it. What is inclusive community for you? And why do you think just a community is just a community is not enough, and being an inclusive community is more than good in many cases? So over to you.
Thank you. Right. I've thought about this a lot, and I think that at the end of the day, what makes a community inclusive is how safe it is. Because if you can see that it's a space that is psychologically safe, you also feel compelled, you feel welcome, and you feel that you can join it without being discriminated, without being judged. So being inclusive, it means can removing these barriers and opening the border, opening the door to any kind of people, different culture, different races, different genders, different sexual orientation. So everybody has a space. And even when you're not aware of a different space, you are willing to learn about the different culture, about the different requirements and accessible needs that someone can have. So if you establish this safety, I think that you can be called an inclusive community, because then it shows with the people that you call and welcome. The second part of your question is, why is this important? Well, I'm a very curious person. I love learning a lot. So for me, everything is an opportunity to learn. And what I've discovered, like over the years, over all my experiences, is that you learn much more, much faster, and you can go much higher if you have different point of views. So if with your inclusive community you are welcoming different people from all over the world, from all over the cultures, you are also putting yourself in a position of learning and becoming a better professional, a better human being. So that would be why for me it's important. And it's also, sorry, last bit is to give people the opportunity, to give them a stage to express themselves. It's not fair if only some of us that have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think all the points which you just mentioned is something which I resonate with a lot, especially the last point. Uh, when it comes to giving everyone an opportunity and making sure that everyone feel involved, everyone feel welcomed
Yeah.
in every way possible, not just that it should not just be like you're saying them individually that you are involved. It's about how you make them feel, about how you communicate, the messaging which you send, the kind of event which you host. So the way you conduct yourself, I think small little things goes for a longer run when it comes to how do you make people or community members feel involved. So I think uh, the last point of yours is something which I really agree on, like very strongly. because I personally have tried doing that, and that really helps. Let's say if there's a community of 10 people, out of which two are the leaders, three are the mentors, and the rest five are just the newbies. Now, it's not that you always talk to the mentors, you always talk, give them the chance, but allowing them or just asking them, hey, what are you capable of? Is this something you can do? Is there something you want to get involved in? Is there something we can help you? Asking these right questions is also somehow very important, and they feel like, okay, no, my presence is, considered. My presence is something they really care. So I think that uh, really helps in much ways.
Yeah. And you have to be proactive, and you being the one asking those questions is great, because what I've seen is that people are scared and they are insecure because, like you said, these are newbies to the community. They've never encountered like this kind of ecosystem before. So feeling hesitant, feeling all their insecurities about, the level of expertise, or just the fact that they might have something to bring to the table, to contribute to. They need that kind of reassurance, and they need that kind of support of people already integrated in the community, that they can tell them, hey, it's okay, first we can learn together and I can learn from you, because even if your experience is not as vast, you do bring something different and your own experience to the table.
Yeah, that's really very important. And also, like, while we talk about and understand what the inclusive communities are and what do they mean, I think it's just the first step, right? It's always kind of difficult to take the first step, but there are more steps to be taken, right? And I feel, and after talking to many community organizers or community leaders, some of the common things which I've heard from them is that while they start to think upon this topic of making their communities inclusive, or just adding that factor to it, in the very start it becomes difficult for them, that how do they communicate that thing, how do they, what is the place there from where they can start. So have you come across any such common problems or struggles which one can face just when they are getting started, and how do you address them?
Yeah, like the truth is that it is hard. It's hard, especially at the beginning, because, like you said, you're building something from scratch. So it's not like you have a foundation where you can see, hey, I have done my part. Hey, I have some
Mhm.
reputation of being inclusive, or diverse, or whatever else you want to be. So this can be connected also to the fact that you want to build communities, but sometimes you also have some other requirements that you have to fulfill. For example, if you're running an event or you want to run a meetup, you also want to grow this as fast as possible. So there's always like this search of the popular names or the popular members of the community that I can grab the attention, makes you become popular quite quickly. But that's where you have to be diligent, so and find a compromise also on the time and space that you give to existing members of the communities against the time and space that you give to the new members. So it's about also making some sacrifices sometimes, accepting that it is a slow process, and also accepting that, like you were saying earlier, sometimes is a small step, is a one step at a time process. You cannot expect to have a massive impact from the beginning. If you're helping one person, and if you're engaging with two or three members of the community, it's already a great achievement. And then little by little you can grow on that, and you can get the help and the support of other members of the community. The other thing that I want to highlight in this process is that it's also very, very easy to make mistakes. Like, you cannot possibly have the overview and to be aware of every difference or every, I don't know, peculiarity of people, or every characteristic. So you need to put that you need to account for that you're gonna make mistakes, but you need to be humble enough to learn from them, and also be humble enough to say, okay, yes, I know I'm gonna make a mistake, but I'm willing to jump back and to improve the next time.
Yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. Also, I feel something with the early challenges is the first thing is to embrace it. Not getting panic that, oh, this is too much. We're just not getting it. Are we doing it right or not? I would like from my experience, I would just say just breathing in and taking in at that time is something could help. Like you are not like no one is expecting you to build a great inclusive community on day one. So and personally, one thing which has helped me a lot to thrive this kind of an environment within my communities is that having the right mindset. Now, let's say we have our own code of conduct, right? And which we are going to talk about uh, like ahead in this particular live stream as well. But a small little thing here is that you have thing that you promote inclusivity, which is written there, right? So that is one thing. But how do you bring the same mindset? You know, how do you prove your writings? That is something which I feel can be done through your actions, through your communication, and with the way you conduct yourself. Let's say if I am meeting someone, and if I've just shared my thoughts with them about why inclusivity is important, doesn't matter if I'm sharing it with my whole community. I'm just sharing it with that one person. I think it starts from there. And now, out of, let's say, if the community is of 100 people, one of them knows. And now there are two people who can radiate the same mindset, you
Yeah,
know? So now, let's say two people says to two, and now there are four people. And it's like it goes in the power of 1 to 4, 8, and this way slowly and gradually, of course, as you mentioned, it will take time. It's not a one day thing. So I think that is a good approach. And yeah, thanks for sharing that.
of course.
Awesome. And also, one thing which has always made me curious is while we talk about being inclusive around our communities, how important the factor of making it diverse is, because inclusive is like everyone is welcome, right? But the idea of making it more diverse, how is that helping making the communities inclusive? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, for sure. That you're absolutely right. That being inclusive, it means that you're welcoming anybody, everybody, which is a great trait to have. But diversity has a slightly different angle, which means that you are also welcoming people from different backgrounds that are not always supported and invited enough to any community. So that's where you have to again make a proactive effort to make sure that your inclusivity includes diversity, and that's where you have uh, to allocate the time and effort to address and to communicate with specific community from underrepresented background that they don't have the same opportunities very often, and they require the extra help and support. Now, I've seen a lot of changes in the community, in the tech community, that there's been a lot of improvement, but still, the level of accessibility, the level of presence in the ecosystem is still very very low. Even in teams, even in companies, if you look at a team where out of 10 engineers you have two women, or when you're lucky, or one person of color, I mean, it's still hard to fully reach an integration that is a real picture of society.
Hmm.
It's and that's where it becomes crucial, because what we want to achieve is not something special, is fairness, is a
Mm.
fair representation of also of who we are as a society. And as a society we are all different, and we all have the different backgrounds. And what happens if you achieve that? That other people from the same background or from other backgrounds are gonna see themselves, or they're gonna see that they can better relate.
Mm.
Safety is established, and they're gonna be encouraged to join you, increasing the number of these different backgrounds and these diverse backgrounds. It's a beautiful, virtuous cycle.
Yeah, that's true. And I think this kind of encouragement also uh, helps your community members do the word of mouth. Uh,
Yes.
and I guess that is the most influential thing while you're growing the community. You do not need to speak for yourself; your community members are speaking for yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for adding that point. And also, like one thing which is something which has, I don't know how important this was way before COVID, but over the time, something which we have started more prioritizing is the social media platforms or online platforms or communication channels or event pages. I still remember I used to participate in events before COVID. We still had these things, but there was not much of a buzz, much of a traffic. You know,
Mm,
people were still using these platforms. People were still considering them as one of the channels to communicate through. You know,
yeah.
but over the time, what I've observed is that people have started bringing up initiatives, started bringing up more analytics, more priorities, more structuring. Uh, and it has been a face of community in a way, because let's say if there's a very big community, you won't be able to meet them on a daily basis. How do you meet them? You meet them through online channels, because that's like one voice for you, social media, or let's say platforms like Discord, Slack, Telegram. uh, how do you think using these online platforms would help us encourage the inclusivity within the community? Do you think it's about the communication? Do you think it's about how we portray ourselves? What are your thoughts on this?
Mm, okay, I use social media platforms all the time, of course. A lot of them. I've lost count sometimes because I try to keep up with all the migrations to one and the other. I think that the topic of social media can be a bit controversial, because my personal experience has been both positive and negative on social media. Positive because that's how I was able also to build my own community in tech. It's it's literally thanks to Twitter or other platforms where I was able to connect and to learn from other members of the community, keep up to the latest insights and innovations in the industry, being able to meet new people, people that were far from me. Like, I mean, I live in London, which is a great tech hub, but still, I was able to be in contact with people from all over the world, from the America, Asia, you name it. So it gives you this sense of closeness that you cannot achieve on a regular basis. The part that is being less positive for me is how sometimes fast paced they are, how they kind of take the human trait from the individuals, and then it becomes really easy to get angry at people on social media. It becomes very easy to um, take one sentence from the actual context and conversation and use that against people. So it's really hard sometimes to have like conversations that they can go deeper and really uh, really improve a relationship. So on the one hand, yes, I love that. On the other hand, I think we should all be a bit more aware of the fact that sometimes we need to pause. We really need to understand that there is another person on the other side of the screen. They might be misunderstanding something. They might be even with the best intentions, but yeah, we don't know. So did I answer your question?
Yes, of course. I think the point which you said about social media, of course, the bad and good, uh, both the sides. Like we always see both the sides for almost like everything. There's like advantages and disadvantages of it.
Yeah.
Uh, I think Tokir has almost the same thought as well. But yeah, um, one thing like which I would also like to ask you here is that uh, when it comes to social media especially, not about Discord, because Discord, Slack, platforms like these are more of like a communication
Mm.
where we have more of a dialogues, where if we send, they talk, members talk, we can respond, all this stuff. We can still do the same on social media, but many a times it's not obvious, like it's not practical to do because it is like an open channel. A
Mm.
random person on the internet can also come to that. uh, how do one cater their thoughts in a very specific way? uh, Something like, let's say you have your community members knowing what you are already doing, but because it's an open channel, it can be a different subject of interest for someone else watching it, right? But how do you kind of try communicating that, okay, anyone watches this, they feel like, okay, this is something they can relate, though they haven't been part of community. I think if that is possible, people are not part of the community, they'll actually feel, okay, like this is something interesting, and they'll feel like I should try. Maybe we can have gateways to having more new people. What do you think?
Yeah, but it is a great point about being open and being friendly to new members that maybe have nothing to do. They have no idea what the community is about because that is your point, right?
Yes.
Well, again, I think that in this case, this is something that I've been reflecting on a lot lately because I'm also seeing a lot of community around DevRel, Cloud Native, all of it. And even at events and meetups, I sometimes I keep seeing the same faces over and over, and I was like, okay, but where is the space for the
Mhm.
for the new people? How can they think that they can even ask a question or be part of it? So again, I think it's a role of the community members and the community leaders to craft this space and to be proactive in proactive and diligent in making sure that there's always room. And one other thing that I think is important is understanding and highlighting the value that
Mhm.
these people can get from joining a community, from learning something, and be part of the sharing and maybe teaching others at some point. Because everybody wants something in the best possible way, but everybody is looking for getting values, improving, getting promoted. Like I don't know, you name it. So if you
Yeah.
manage to find a sweet spot and you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you are able to show them, hey, if you join, you're gonna get what you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I guess that makes a lot of sense. While I was thinking about that question which I asked, but yeah. Thanks a lot. Uh, Now this is something which also leads me to my next thing, which I wanted to put in front of you, is that while we try our best to, let's say, build an inclusive environment for our community, while we are trying to have a better communication, how we portray ourselves as a group, uh, I think there should be something which also backs it. something which is more a strong proof of concept, I would say, in
Mm.
a way, but more something which is a backbone to whatever we are saying, to whatever we are trying to pursue. And that is where the idea of code of conduct comes into the play, right? So we when I talk about code of conduct, the first thing which comes in my mind is a piece of paper with n number of points written in it. And we always try to make people aware about it, that make sure you follow the code of conduct, you're aware about it, you'll abide the rules and regulations, respect everyone, all these common points. But they say at the same time, uh, writing and having a code of conduct is one thing, but making sure that it is being followed, it is being noticed, that people are aware of it. How does that happen, or how does situations like discrimination or harassment in a community, where you observe people not having the mindset of being inclusive, how do you just reply to that, or
Yeah.
what is the solution here?
So the first of all, like you said, it's something that is in writing. So the code of conduct is somewhere in writing on your website or in your meetup page or wherever. So that's the first step, and the second step that is kind of building the foundation of the process is showing and reiterating how much you care about the code of conduct as a community leader, as a community member. This gives the immediate impression that if something happens, you're gonna be there to address it. Why is this important? It's important because first of all, people need to find the courage to make to raise their hand or to write a message saying that the code of conduct has been violated, that they've been harassed. It's not an easy thing to say. You really need to be brave to raise something like this. But if you, as an organizer, you've shared that yes, I'm here and I'm gonna be on your side, then step number one is covered. You're giving the person the courage and the assurance that the claim is gonna be taken seriously.
Hmm.
Then actually take that seriously. So unfortunately, there's not really a blanket solution because it really differs case by case. But you really need to listen carefully to what has happened, really understand what that person felt offensive or how the harassment took place, gathers as much data as possible within the personal boundaries of the person as well, because again, like I said, it's a difficult situation, so you also have to be gentle and make sure that you are not probing and or aggressively trying to solve the situation immediately. You become
Hmm.
a mediator, and your goal is to resolve in a peaceful way. If not, you also need to be ready to be strict. If you
Hmm.
need to get the person out from your event or from your community, from your Discord channel, you name it, you need to follow up on that. And it's not a
Yeah.
nice thing, never, but you need to bear that responsibility.
Yeah, no, of course, that is like the saddest thing which could happen while building community. But yeah, I think the point which you mentioned, that standing up for it because you are running it and you're the face, and you have something, you're the one you started this, the clear definition. I think the standing up straight and right is very important. Yeah, well said. Also, like in all this points which you just mentioned, I think one common thing here, I think, which is something, who is something very responsible for all of this act and making sure that this is acted upon, is the community leaders, right? The leadership behind any community. So I would just ask, how strong do you think that a leadership plays an important role in shaping the dynamics of any inclusive community?
Well, leadership in any context, I think it's extremely important because the first thing that you have to do as a leader is also lead by example. So
Hmm.
if you believe in these values, if you believe in that diversity, inclusivity, equity, you need to be the first to show, and to show with words, but mainly with acts that you're really
Hmm.
behind and you really support these values. And then as a leader also, people are gonna look at you like you're saying you are the face of the community, or you are a speaker at the conference. You can be a leader in many ways, but people are gonna look up to you, and that's how you can also first you need to consider that, because it's a big responsibility. So
Hmm.
be careful what you decide to share, how you decide to share. But second, you can steer the conversation. You can um, change the mindset of your own community. If you establish a code of conduct, if you establish some shared values together with your community, you are molding, you are creating an entity that is
Hmm.
crafted around the needs of everybody, and is ensure like is protected also by your actions. And the last part that I think is very important is that if as a leader you are the protector, you are the custodian of these values, you can also show that someone else can be in your place at some point. Because
Hmm.
that's one of the problems of leadership. Sometimes you think it's something that's unreachable, but the truth is that as a member of the community, you can be a leader at any point, a humble leader for sure, but you can be someone else helping others and steering the conversations in a better direction, or in encouraging direction where you want to raise points, like you are a leader because you are you decided to cover these topics in this live stream, and now you have people listening to you, and they they are gonna reflect and maybe learn something new from this chat.
Yeah, I think, like, first of all, totally the point which you mentioned. Uh, Honestly, I've been leading communities since quite some years, and this is something I've learned over time. The point you mentioned, being humble. Uh, I still remember the first time I was leading an event by myself. The first time, honestly, I was like, "What is happening? Whom should I answer? Uh, is this supposed to be taken care by me? Am I the one taking care of things? Am I the responsible?" And there were like so many questions up in my head, and I was feeling like there's like heavy weight on my shoulders. Uh, but yeah, I think this is the quality of a leadership team or the community leaders. About, of course, you are being humble and you're just taking in. You're not reacting too fast. You're listening calmly. You have that patience. You have the right mindset of taking better decisions than most of the other persons, and that is why I guess they are there at that position as well, for many reasons. So yes, totally. I think while you were saying all of these points, I was just going back in my journey and slowly coming up at this point. Well said. Thank you so much for sharing all of this thing. And also, let's say for all the community leaders or someone who are an aspiring leaders right now, if you're listening this, one thing which I would also mention is that. Uh, Not just during the event. Now, if you are too much involved in community spaces like this, I are too much involved in events, uh, not just follow the code of conduct during the events, I would say, because having that mindset, having that values inculcated within yourself is very important too, because that also allows your community members to see you, because not every time they'll be communicating with you during your events, during
Yes.
your community activities. They'll also end up meeting you at a random person, some other community. And if they see you behaving in a different way, opposite, something anti, right, and they'll feel like, they'll feel confused. What is happening, what is right, what is wrong. And that's the dilemma. That's the worst dilemma a community member can be in. So I think the authenticity of your community mindset of being an inclusive community is really very important, not just within your community, but with the kind of conduct you behave in everywhere you go. So, a quick little tip for all the community leaders out there: uh, just make sure where you are, around whom you are. I'm not saying that you behave in a way that you are not, but also being true to your values is also something important. If you're true to that, I think wherever you go, you do not need to prove yourself or speak loudly that, hey, I am being inclusive. So I think this is something I've observed over time amongst many leaders, amongst many communities, and that would definitely help you in longer run and build that trust within, of course, your core team and your community members as well.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I 100% agree. Also, there's many opportunities within and outside the community. Like, if you think about it, even with your friends or in the workplace, are you really helping like a new colleague or someone that doesn't have experience? So there's chances to make even a small difference in so many contexts that are gonna just validate your commitment in the community even more, because they're gonna show, hey, yes,
Correct.
that's me, that's what I believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that brings me to another point, and there'll be a lot many situations where you'll be, uh, you'll be in a debate where there'll be people opposing you that you're doing wrong. But if you feel like you are doing right, and this is something your values are, of course, the right values. I'm not saying you're doing wrong and then you're believing in something doing that. But if you feel like there are people which are, of course, telling you that you're doing wrong because they feel like wrong is right, I think standing up with your point and just sticking to that is also a great quality you can carry with yourself. And I'm sure that if you're doing that, your community members will understand and they'll support you with the same. For all those who definitely really care about it, they'll definitely join you. So that will make the bond even more stronger with your community members. Awesome. I think the biggest point which we talked about.
Yes.
All right. I think we summed upon a couple of things here, right? Like we started with understanding more about what inclusive communities are in general. We started talking more about challenges, how to address them, the topic of diversity, how to use the online presence, understanding and leveraging the code of conduct, effect of leadership. After talking all of these things, uh, I think these are like some great points someone can touch upon while they're getting started. Of course, there are so many things they can work on effectively. It's just over time they can start doing that. For everyone watching, it's not necessary for you to start jumping on everything right on first day. Take small steps to start doing initiatives. Uh, Take a lot of feedbacks while you are in this process. Talk to people, ask questions to someone experienced, bring up your problems in public. Uh, I think this will help you a lot. Uh, so, Carla, after all of these things, do you have any live examples of communities that we can get inspired from? Communities that have already set an example while they're building this space and making it inclusive in some or the other way.
Yeah, so that I was thinking about this, and obviously there's big examples and there's smaller examples, but obviously now that I'm very close to the CNCF and I've seen all the initiatives, there's some things that there is a huge effort in being as inclusive as possible with such a big community like that, the cloud native community that has thousands and thousands of members, and it keeps growing every day. So one of the initiatives that I think they show this commitment around inclusivity, for example, is the CNCF glossary. which is basically a glossary with definitions around the cognitive ecosystem. What have they done with this? Obviously, it started in English, but now little by little is being translated in many languages. I think now that they've reached like, I don't know, 10 if not more languages, which
Wow.
is a massive step, because inclusivity, yes, is about different culture, but it's also about, very simple put, different languages. And I know,
Hmm.
like, we spoke together in Yokohama, and we know that one of the challenges that the Japanese speakers at the conference were mentioning is the fact that a lot of the documentation is in Japanese, or they not everybody is fluent in English. So
Hmm.
this is a different barrier that is still stopping people from being part of a community and from making a community really inclusive. So, even translating or addressing geographies that are less popular or less rich, because we know that money very often dictates which regions and which areas you want to target. It makes a big difference. Uh, Another initiative that I found incredibly inspiring is also a new working group for hard of hearing people, deaf and hard of hearing people, which is again a way to make people feel part of the community, something that otherwise, it becomes very hard for them to achieve. They
Hmm.
are like, their needs are completely different. So these things are like, they make a massive difference, and they are being done by a big organization, a foundation, which is great. But
Hmm.
as back to the smaller impact that any of us, any community leader can have, it goes to, making sure that there is like a quiet room at your events, or a sensory room where people that are neurodiverse, for example, they don't feel as overwhelmed, a prayer room for people who are religious, or a breastfeeding room for moms that need to, feed their children. So these are things that are, the scale is not as big, but for the person on the day, they make a massive difference. So
Absolutely.
anybody, like all of us, can do something. And like you said, like we've been saying during this stream, it's not about big small, it's about how you can help, step by step.
Hmm. Yeah. Though, I think personally, if someone just comes to me, and if he's the organizer, if he's the core team, if he's the volunteer, even volunteer, if I'm an attendee of an event, a conference, anything, if any random person from this particular upper level comes to me and says like, "Hey, do you need anything? Uh, are you comfortable? Do you have any thing we can help you with?" I think that's like the least, right? uh, and all these points which you mentioned, all these arrangements, of course not everyone will need that. Like, let's say from a 500 group, not everyone. Even if five people, or let's say one two people, if they are using it and they feel like, okay, I've been considered, they'll feel like, okay, no, I'm just not an attendee, and my presence is valued. So if we consider that, I think that that is really really special for those people. And not just those people who are not even using it, but they see things happening. They see like, oh
Okay.
wow, this is really cool, how they have done the arrangements, how they really care about people. uh, they'll start believing in the idea of inclusivity, and even if they encounter someone, because they have seen an act of something like this, they'll be the first person to say like, okay, I should help. If they are putting in so much efforts, why don't I as an individual do something? So I think it's just like monkey to monkey see thing, which we say. So that goes for a long run as well. And especially if I talk about my case, I am building Hack This Fall as a hacker community, which is based around hackathons, right? And we will be hosting the fourth edition of it next year in February. Uh, while we talk about all these things, we really work a lot on how do we cater our idea of making it more inclusive. How do we communicate with our community members? How do we make them feel special, not just to make it, not just for the sake of it, but genuinely doing it from our heart. And we have these brainstorming ideas, we have this idea board dedicated to this particular thing. And then we every week we jump on to calls and just discuss about it. How do we implement it, all these things. So I think I could resonate a lot with that. And I've seen that feeling. I've had that feeling of helping people and also getting helped from other people at the same time. And I understand how valuable that could be. Of course, it's a small little effort, but yeah, it people remember this for the rest of their lives. So I cannot, vouch enough for this particular thing.
It is. It is. It again. That goes back to that. Doesn't matter how big of a gesture, but it's gonna have an impact on the individual or a small group or even a big group. But we are all humans, and I know it's a cliche thing to say, but at the end of the day we do appreciate that, and we all appreciate kindness and the opportunity to be comfortable in
Yeah.
an environment or in a community. So, and it's inspiring, like you said, you see someone doing an act of kindness or inclusivity, you are inspired to follow the
Totally.
with your skills. You might have different skills, not being able to do the same thing, but you can bring something else, and it's even more powerful because you are
Hmm.
enriching the
Yeah.
ecosystem.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, totally. Awesome. It has been a long conversation.
It's been
I think we're
lovely.
almost 50 minutes up. But yeah, let's. I see the chat has been buzzing. They are in their own discussion. They are like
Good.
having their own conversation, which is something I love. Thank you everyone for doing that. Uh, I love how collaborative you all are there, asking questions and answering each other's questions right there and then. I think you all are like super awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. One question which I see here, Carla, from Gupta Darshan, is he's also leading a college community, which is for
Nice.
all over India, and he wants some help in how do he promote and get the events info near the resources, like all the near regions. I think he's asking how do he stand different from other communities in doing it.
Is,
Hmm.
say it again. Is this student community?
Yes, it is for college students in all over India.
Right. Uh, I'm not sure about this because obviously it's sometimes it's a different network. But if
Hmm.
these students are looking for be part of the tech industry, then they can simply leverage also bigger institutions like like the CNCF, for example, or open source groups. There's a lot of effort around becoming more welcoming and inclusive in the educational environment, because that's an area that is still not very much included at the moment. So I
Hmm.
think that if they find an advocate, if they find community leaders like you, and they can use other communities to kind of slowly insert themselves in the ecosystem. It's still about the network. I don't know. I don't have a better answer besides trying to use other networks and slowly building that their own.
Yeah, I think Darshan, I would say don't try to be different than others. Just do what you're best at. I think that will set you apart, obviously, from what others are doing. And even before jumping on to scaling of that level, I would just say talk to your community members. What are the common struggles that you all are facing? What is that common barrier? And try to solve that. I think if you are able to impact the local community members, your college groups, that's the best place. And slowly, if you feel like the same problem is being faced by students from other communities, students from other colleges, just reach out to them and share with them that, hey, this is the problem we are trying to solve. Would you be open for a solution? Would you like to join hands? Would you like to be part of a community? You're more than welcome. Maybe you can start from somewhere like that. Considering you're taking it all over India, I would say start from your college or your local region first, and then slowly, spread your wings, uh, because it will take some time, but it is possible. So that's
I think
something I would also say.
yeah, I think it's a very good advice, but it also connected to the fact that what we were saying earlier about understanding what value
Mm,
they're after, what was the goal, what are they trying to achieve. So have a clear goal as a community, like have a shared objective, and then see what are the requirements to achieve this
mm,
goal. Is it going like on a global scale, or like you said, is it enough for the beginning to stay localized and to just be unique in that way? I think it's not about like scale, it's about achieving the goals and solving the challenges you're trying to solve.
yeah, true. That's true. Thank you so much. Awesome. I see there's one more question from Star Brawler underscore MLH. How do you encourage the community to engage on social media posts? Yeah, that's a good one.
Engagement on social media posts. Well,
Run ads, run ads. No, just kidding.
now it's become very expensive. Like,
Oh, yes.
so you need a lot of money if you want to rely on that. Okay. I think some things that I believe work is sh- giving the opportunity to learn. So posts that are educational are always more engaging because people, again, they want to learn. So if you're giving them something like an insight or a recap or uh, some tips, or if you share your experience, basically they're gonna gain something. It's not gonna be just, oh, another post about, I don't know, observability on and how cool that platform is. So it's about putting yourself in the shoes of whoever is scrolling the social media platform and understanding what they want to hear, what they want to learn, and try to give them that. And personal experiences are always very valuable because people say, oh, wow, yeah, I'm not alone. This person also went through this drama or this challenge. So you can exchange tips and stories, and then it becomes a conversation, not just engaging with a like or a reshare. And video, last thing, videos. People attention span is very short. So if you have some moving animation things, people are gonna be more engaged.
uh, Honestly, there are a lot of things on social media that you can do, uh, but not every social media is same, right? So think about it. Who are your audience on the platform? uh, what have been the past characteristics in the way they engage? Just study that, see what works for you, see what not, experiment with it. uh, there are multiple things which you can do, which Carla already mentioned. So yeah, pretty much of it. Keep experimenting, I would say. It just changes every time, every time of the year, and you'll have more opportunities to unlock for sure. Awesome. I do not see any further questions in the chat. If you still have any question, feel free to ask. I think for the scholarship, any tips? I think this is kind of out of context, I would say. But Carla, do you want to pick this question?
It's about scholarships in there are.
I think, yeah, I think the person asked the same question before about the scholarship with the KubeCon. I did share a link that should help. But do you have any tips for someone who is applying for scholarship?
Well, no, but they are. There is an evaluation, and there is. I would encourage to apply, uh,
Hmm.
because there's budget allocated. There's a committee that goes through all these submissions, and they try to be as fair as possible. So I know they try to give the opportunity also to different people. So
Hmm.
if it's your first time, the chances of getting the scholarship are higher than of someone that has done it multiple times. So it is an inclusive process, and I would strongly recommend to go through that because the chances are pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. For sure. Like, uh, if you're a student, if you are really very much keen to participate in conferences like this, many of them do have this particular portal, where you can go ahead and apply. So keep an eye on it, apply, be true about yourself, why this really means to you, and how will this help you if you attend it, if you are selected, if you have been the accepted ones. So yeah, I think that is the best thing which you can do, and go for it, take the chances.
Yeah. Well, honesty is always a great, the best approach.
Yes, I do not see any further questions. Hmm, awesome.
Hmm.
Ajay, thanks. Thank you so much for joining in. Also, one more thing, I think we missed about this, but I just remember because I read the comment from Gupta Darshan. Uh, Whenever you're communicating in a community environment, try to use inclusive words, like folks, everyone,
Yeah.
people, and avoid words like guys, bros. Uh, this is just a small difference, but it will go very, very for a very longer run, especially while you're communicating with people, because uh, there can be anyone in the group in front of you, and while you say guys, you are ignoring some of them. So it's just a small change, and we can all learn together this thing, and we can start changing our habits of speaking in a environment or a setting of a community.
Yeah. And the first time is gonna be awkward because we've been talking in a certain way for all our lives. So it's normal to feel a bit awkward, to stumble on the word because your instinct it is to say guys or whatever other word is in your mind. But after a while, the more you practice, the more you use it, the better it gets, and you'll stop noticing it after a while.
Yeah.
You'll stop noticing it, but the people you are addressing are gonna feel the difference, and that's the beauty of it.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Awesome. Let's take a deep breath. We've been talking since an hour already. But yeah, it was wonderful. A lot of insights, honestly, a lot of things we touched upon. Thank you so much, Carla, for everything that you shared today with us. The experience really, really helped. Not just to all the attendees we have had in the chat, but for also the people who are going to watch this recording later. For me, myself, while I was hosting this, I'm definitely taking all this learnings and takeaways for the future while I'm building my community. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Let's end this with some ending remarks, maybe some final advice you want to give to all our viewers and our community members who are watching this.
Well, my final advice is a recap of what we've been saying, and it's a reminder that everybody can contribute with a
Hmm.
small or big gesture. So don't feel like it's gonna be someone else's responsibility. Even if you're not a leader, just be accountable and with yourself and feel that the power that you have to make a change. Small change
Hmm.
or big change doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
And thanks everyone for joining this particular live stream. Stay tuned because we're gonna come up with a lot more topics in near future. We also have the Code and Chill with Storyblok, a different show which we are hosting. We also have Girl Code Coffee Chat streams, which you can join in your free time just to grab a cup of coffee and hear our conversation and ask questions at the same time. So stay tuned for all of this. You can follow us on Twitch so that you get notification whenever we go live. And don't forget to connect with Carla on Twitter,
Yes.
which is X now.
Oh yeah, right.
That's why I have this bracket, it's so weird, but yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining in once
Thanks,
again.
Siddharth.
And thank you so much,
for
Carla.
this. Thank you. It's been lovely. Thank you all.
Awesome. Bye everyone. Take care.